All right, I would like to introduce to you Philippa Gillstrom, and even her bio here is great. She is a wiseacious woman and queen of change, midwifing herself through midlife, determined to lead her dream life right now. She's recently launched the project, The Year When Everything Changed, where she's inviting people to join her in the slipstream of her blazing path of change. And if you have dreams you want to make into reality, then check out Philippa's podcast, blog, and online community and let her energy infuse your life with inspiration and action. Let us welcome Philippa Gillstrom.
Thank you very much. Right, well, amazing. I feel just so energized and welcomed here into this beautiful, beautiful place. And I say beautiful, I'm very aesthetic. I love color, as you can see in my background. And then I'm looking at this lovely screen with the green splashes of the Authorpreneur branding. Absolutely delightful. Really, really happy to be here. So what do we want to talk about today? Yeah, so I'm not quite sure how the setup was. Brian, did you want to interview me, or would you like me to just roll with something?
I was under the understanding that all we had to do was basically hit the on button and away you would go.
Away I
But
would
if
go.
you would like to have a conversation
No,
with
that
the
is
others
fine.
in the room, we can do that as well.
Absolutely not. No, that is fine. We can talk about all sorts of things. So today I'm thinking of talking about accountability and success and setting yourself up for success as an author. It's quite a lonely job that we've chosen to do, to write, and we don't have anybody in the room, as one might have if you were going to an office, actually sort of seeing whether you're working or whether you're just staring out the window again, or going to have yet another cup of coffee, or just perhaps looking a little bit at Facebook a little bit, or surfing something that's got absolutely nothing to do with writing a book. So there's no sort of sense of accountability. Often we're actually literally in our own homes in front of our computers and possibly trying to muster up the motivation to actually get started each day. And sometimes we're on a roll and we've got loads that we want to write, and sometimes the first draft just rolls out of us, and then the second draft is kind of like giving birth to a dinosaur, which is quite painful, really, I would imagine. Anyway, so it is up to us to be our own bosses. And that's where, when I was talking in the other breakout room that I was just in, the word imposter syndrome came up again. And imposter syndrome and other ways of being that we like to be to ourselves that is very, very unhelpful will get in our way. I like to call it our judge that is sitting there on our shoulder as this sort of extra thing, this saboteur that will get in our way and tell us that we're not doing it well enough, that what we've done is not enough. There's a lot of not enough, not enough, not enough going on. And so we can be our worst bosses, worse than the way if we were to turn up in an office and actually work with other people. We hold ourselves back, we beat ourselves up a lot more than we would anybody else. And so I would like today to talk about the concept of accountability and success. And Janine was particularly sad that I had to show this today. This is my journal that I wrote this week. And if I hold it up really, really close, I think you can see this page where I talk about being bad first. Be bad first. I love that saying. It actually comes from a book called Being Bad First by Erica. Oh my goodness, I've forgotten her name. I will find it out later, and I will make sure that you get to know a link to her book if you want to read it. Anyway, that was a concept that she had created, and basically it is about us being aware that when we are doing things, And even if we've written a book before, we're writing our second book, our third book, our fourth book, our fifth book. Each time we're doing it, it is a new thing. And it perhaps is a slightly new topic. Our characters are new to us. The scenery that we're describing is new. And it can be really, really, really difficult for us because we want to be a master of it now. We want to be brilliant at it now. We don't actually really, really want to go through those painful steps of going from being a beginner and moving upwards through the steps of mastery and becoming a master at something. It's uncomfortable for us. It can make us feel sweaty. It can make us feel that we can't sleep at night. It can make us feel down. It can make us feel that we want to give up. And so I like to remind myself, be bad first. That is actually what we have to get through first, being bad first. So that's one tip that I would like to give with you today is when you are starting out and you're doing something new, remember, I'm going to be bad first at it. I'm going to be a beginner and it's going to feel uncomfortable. And that's fine. So when your brain is freaking out and your judge is sitting there on their shoulder and having a go at you, step to one side and tell your brain, I'm a beginner. I'm fairly new at this. It's my first day at this. Just give me a break. Go and sit there in the corner, in the couch. I'm being bad first. And sometimes we don't realize that we are actually doing something new. So I just said also in the other breakout room that I just recently, and I say recently, last week, I launched my blog, a podcast, and an online community. And I'd launched it, and then I got to the first day, Monday, and I felt awful. I felt fear, you know, the whole sort of day, this sort of sense of fear around me. And I spoke to somebody and she said, but Philippa, do you do this as a living? I went, yeah, I'm an entrepreneur. This is what I do as a living. She went, this is the first day of your job. Of course you're going to be nervous. Of course you're going to feel fear. You know, you've just created a new community, new products. This is, and I'm like, oh my God, oh, of course. Yes, I'm at the beginning. And there's going to be loads of mistakes, even though I've done a podcast before. You know, I'm doing a second podcast. Believe me, there are loads of mistakes, loads of setup mistakes, tech problems, issues here and there that I didn't have with the first podcast. And so we think we've become a master of something. We think we're there and we should know and it should just flow. And sometimes it doesn't. And sometimes we just need to stop again and think, where am I actually? What am I actually doing? Am I actually starting a new venture, starting a new chapter, starting the second draft? I'm in a writer's group right now working with a woman and she is doing her second draft and it is so hard. The first draft went really easy for her. Second draft, really, really struggling. Yeah, but it's the first time she's doing this second draft. She is being a beginner. She is being bad first. Remind yourself, I'm going to be bad first. So that is my tip number one with you today. Number two, we're going to talk about accountability and success. And when I say the word accountability, there may be some of you in the room right now going, ooh, and trying to sort of shake off that word. You know, if you could do this, you probably would be doing it. Going, accountability, no, not something I need, not something I like. And I often get that reaction. It's like, oh, no, I don't do accountability. And I'm like, yeah, I get that. I get that reaction. Because, I mean, let's face it. Accountability isn't really fun, is it? I mean, it's another one of those situations where we have to look at ourselves and realize we may be failing. But I mean, that is the whole point of accountability as well. In fact, that's the beauty of accountability. So I'm going to invite you today to become friends with the concept of accountability and invite it into your life and make sure you have lots of it. Bucket loads of accountability in as many different possible ways as your imagination and fantasy can allow, and invite it into your life because it works. I said I'm the queen of change. Accountability is key. Why we don't like accountability? Well, accountability is about checking, setting an intention, and checking in with somebody, or tracking it yourself, whether you're doing an accountability with yourself, and sometimes it's with somebody else, but you've set up some sort of accountability, some sort of way of measuring what you're doing. And of course, it gets really uncomfortable when you look at your tracker, you talk to your accountability partner, and you realize you haven't been doing the work that you had intended to do. You haven't got as far as you wanted to get, for whatever reason. And of course, that is uncomfortable. And yet, what if this discomfort is actually gold? It's a trigger. It makes us feel uncomfortable. And yet it is gold. Gold because it is information for us, telling us what is happening in our lives, making sure we are checking in. So if you're not doing what you're doing, or sorry, if you're not doing what you intended to do, then you want to be stopping and questioning that and asking yourself, why? And that can get uncomfortable because you may discover that maybe it isn't really what you want to be doing. And you've been trying to convince yourself that you do want to do it. Or maybe there's some sort of fear there that you want to be looking at. And sometimes it's difficult to do it yourself. Sometimes you do want to do it in conversation with somebody else. I normally say to people, it's hard to read the label when you're inside the bottle. So that's why I often have accountability partners, or if I know that I need, there's a fear, I'm holding myself back or I'm not succeeding, I will often then turn to somebody to have a talk. Because I'm inside my bottle and damn it, I cannot read the label. I need somebody to help me do that. And so accountability, yes, when it is working, it probably is uncomfortable. And yet, what if trying to avoid that discomfort is in fact the greatest discomfort of all? Because Jim Rohn, he has this fantastic, beautiful quote where he says, we have two choices, two pains that we can choose from. And I'm not quoting him exactly right, but he says, we can choose either the pain of regret or the pain of discipline. Personally, I go for the pain of discipline. The pain of regret is because we perhaps didn't have the accountability in place. It's because we didn't check in and actually take a look at ourselves and see, are we doing what we intended to do? Are we finishing that book? Are we publishing it? are we moving forward on it? So that pain of regret is the greatest discomfort of all in my world. I'd prefer the pain of discipline and the discomfort that I might have when I have accountability in place. But when I have accountability in place, things happen. I get things done. I make change happen. And then I said I was going to talk about accountability and success and talk about the distinction there. Because you want accountability. And I like to have accountability partners to help me. So I will, I will identify that I am not doing something. And so then I will find somebody or a group and I'll go, can I join? Because you know what, right now, I need to get this done. And I'm not going to do it on my own. I need to get this done. And then I will hook up with these people. I will do the work. And then when I've finished, I'll leave. Then I'll say goodbye to the group or say thank you very much for the accountability partnership. I go in and I get the help I need, and people do the same with me. However, what is even better is if you find success partners. Now, these are better in my world than accountability partners. They function as an accountability partner baseline, absolutely. I set up my success partnership with them. And I agree on what it is that we're going to be doing or what it is I intend to do. But that person's job is also to question me and to push me further. It's almost like I say, I am going to walk to the top of the highest mountain here in Sweden, which actually isn't very high. And I would want my success partner to go, really? Is that the only mountain you're going to conquer? You know what? I think there's a higher one down in the Alps. South of Germany, Italy, wherever. Go down there. Or you know what? Actually, there's a place called, Mount Everest. Have you ever tried? Have you ever thought of that one? To actually push me to go beyond, to think beyond. When I work with my clients, I like to do the same thing as well and get them thinking bigger, going further, playing with what actually is possible. Because we tend to think that this is possible because we've done it before, and then we do just a little bit more. And a success partner will go, but wait a minute, there's even more that is possible. And they'll open it up to you. And you'll go, oh yeah. Yeah, I suppose that's possible as well. And so a success partner pushes you beyond your intentions. You talk about more. If they feel you are not performing at your maximum and beyond, they will call you out. That is a good success partner. They will ask uncomfortable questions and they will call you out and say to you, I don't think you're doing enough. I don't think that's good enough. I think you can do more. And these are also uncomfortable, but really exciting success partnerships. I have someone I've been meeting since the beginning of this year. And we were meeting 2 days a week. Now we're actually only meeting once a week. And we are a success partner for one another. and we set up intentions, we set up goals, and then we have a conversation about our goals. And I know I can rely on her to ask uncomfortable questions. She knows that I can also give feedback, ask uncomfortable questions. Sometimes one of us is crying and we have a breakthrough because we realize we're actually letting ourselves down, or we realize that we're not really stepping into our full potential. And I believe in the creativity of the human mind. It is amazing, our brain. And so every single person on this summit, I know 100% is a brilliant author. More brilliant than you probably know or feel about yourself today. I know this. And I'm inviting you to take the concepts I've presented you today and set yourself up for even more success in the next 12 months. Let yourself be bad first. It's fine to feel uncomfortable, to feel clumsy, to feel sweaty, to feel a bit stupid sometimes. When you're starting out and doing something new, get yourself accountability set up. And it can be different partnerships, it can be groups, it can be simply that you set yourself up. I have things that I have, like sort of journals that I don't have enough time to go into it today, but I have journals, I have certain routines that are there to set myself up. So I do a seasonal review, I do a monthly review, weekly reviews. I have things that I set up and I honor myself and I sit down and I do them. And I've created and developed for myself over a number of years. And they help. These tools also help me to succeed and to know when basically I'm holding myself back. We need to see it when we have written something down, set an intention, and then you look at it a week later, or you're looking at a tracker. You know, when I do a seasonal review, then it's sort of after 3 months and I look back and I go, holy crap, I haven't done half of what I said I was going to do. Now, what happened? What do I need to do today to set myself up for success at the next coming 3 months? I do get the stuff done that I intended to do, because otherwise change won't happen. And I will be suffering the pain of regret rather than the pain of discipline. And it's often the fact that I've chosen the pain of regret over the pain of discipline. And I haven't put accountability in place, or I don't have a success partner. And you get creative. You know, I've had phases like just recently where I felt I was stuck. And I actually said to my husband, could you, and this is one of the benefits of COVID, the fact that most of us actually are still working from home because, well, they don't want to go into the office anymore. It's kind of nice being at home, isn't it, working? So although he works for a big corporate company, he's often at home. So I was able to say to him, I'm stuck. I feel like I am not focusing on those high impact tasks I want to be focusing on every day. I am perhaps not procrastinating, but I'm certainly avoiding doing some of the things that I really want to be doing. And the reason I'm not doing them is because they feel new. I've never done them before, or they're kind of big projects and kind of feeling a bit like an elephant, and you can't eat an elephant all at once, but I'm trying to, and it feels a bit scary. And so I'm like, I need help. I need accountability. So I actually said to him, every morning, before you go and sit down and do your work in front of your computer, will you please come and sit beside me? And we're going to look at, I have a productivity app called Nirvana. And we're going to look at that, and we're going to make sure that the ones that are at the top are really my high impact tasks. And I'm going to tell you, the ones that I actually really kind of don't want to do because they feel a bit big and scary. And then I'm going to tell you ones that I would like to do because they'd be really easy and I'd like to tick them off and everything. And then we're going to order them. And then I'm just going to start doing the really hard one because, hello, I'm going to eat that frog first. That was another great book as well. So you'd go and do the one that you kind of need to do the most, but you probably don't want to do because it kind of feels difficult, like eating a frog. And so I got him to sit there. And then I'm like, okay, I've written the first few sentences. You can go now. I'm all right. I'm on my way. And he just got me on my way. And I needed it just for a couple of weeks just to get going. I believe I am a brilliant, fabulous, fantastic human being. I'm also perfectly imperfect. I need accountability. I need help. I can't do this on my own. In fact, I don't believe any human being on this planet can do it on their own. We are much more brilliant when we do it together. So go out there and find people to help you and support you so that you get the change happening that you want to happen. Make these next 12 months the most pivotal, no, I can't say the word, the most amazing 12 months of your life that in years to come, you say, that year, 2023 to 2024, that was the year where everything changed in my life. I've just gone and thrown some pretty big concepts at you. And I think we have time for some Q&A. So I thought I would open up the floor for people to ask and get curious. I've tried all sorts of accountability, success partnerships. I am very good at being bad first. I am always starting things, making things happen, etc., etc. So fire away and ask me some questions. I probably can find an answer.
Okay, you have the option of asking questions in the chat if you don't want to ask directly, but I would say also if you'd like to ask a question directly, just feel free to unmute yourself and ask. I do have one for you, Philippa, and that, why do people hold on to regrets? It seems like sometimes we're very reluctant to turn loose of them, even though they make us miserable. Why do we stick to them?
Yeah, there's a lovely, okay, I've got to say this. I love reading books, which is probably pretty good considering I'm at a, Authorpreneurial as a summit. I absolutely adore reading books. So I read a book by Amanda Palmer called The Art of Asking. And there's a lovely story there that will actually, I think, answer your question, Brian, very well. And it is a story where she says there is a neighbor goes around, or a guy goes around to his neighbor's house. His neighbor is sitting on his porch. So, you know, in my sort of imagination, I thought, oh, this is definitely sort of somewhere in the south of the US, you know, all those sort of lovely big sort of porches that you have down there. We don't have things like that here in Europe in the same way, you know, and it's sort of like Louisiana or somewhere like that, you know, in these films that you see. And so he goes around and he sits on the porch together with his neighbor who's sitting there, and they're sitting there chatting, and then suddenly there's this awful noise coming from inside the house, and he's like, oh my God, what is going on in your house? What is that noise? And he went, oh, it's my dog. He's just sitting on a nail. And the neighbor goes, but why doesn't he get off of it? And the guy goes, it doesn't hurt enough yet. And that is why we choose regret sometimes. That's why we stay sitting on that nail, howling with pain. Because for some reason, it's not painful enough yet. And we don't get off of it and go and do something about it. And I love stories like this, because I then take them with me as reminders. And then I can ask myself, am I sitting on a nail at the moment? Is it that I just don't want to get off of it because it isn't painful enough yet? And what is it that is making me think it's okay to be sitting on this nail for a little bit longer? And having that sort of analogy to hang up my thinking around helps to make it easier for me to start to work with actually what is happening and identify what's happening. And so I haven't answered why we stay sitting on that damn nail, because that can be very individual, but there is something about it. And I think a lot of the time it's fear. There's fear that holds us back. Fear of being seen, fear of being rejected. I mean, that's a terrible thing for us. You know, it's a primeval sort of instinct that we have when we used to live out there on the savannah in our tribes. You know, I'm sure you've heard this sort of this concept or the story before. It's like, it's real. We survived out there on the savannah because we belong to a tribe. The worst thing that could happen to a human being then was rejection, was no longer being accepted in the tribe, because that was a guaranteed death sentence. So of course, the fear feels real to us. It feels like it is it is life threatening. And that's the tricky thing with evolution. Yeah, we've kind of changed our environment and how we're living much faster than evolution could actually catch up with. So we have a primeval brain that is just screaming in the corner, afraid that we're going to die, or afraid that we're going to be rejected, which would mean that we would die, and therefore doesn't want us to go and do the things that we actually know is pretty safe to go and do.
I have a question for you. What characteristics do you look for in choosing an accountability partner?
That is a very good question. And they need to be someone Okay, this is actually very good, because the woman that I turned to, I had actually worked with briefly before. And the reason I went back to her is because I knew I could rely on her. So I knew she would always turn up. Now, not everybody does, even though they say, oh, I'm committed and I will be there on this day, etc. You know, I've had success partners, accountability partners that like suddenly go, oh no, I've got this, and oh, I've forgotten I've got this booked in my diary, and I've got this, and I'm signed up to this course and I can't turn up and I can't turn up. And they're unreliable. They're not 100% committed. So you need to find someone who is going to be 100% committed, who wants this as badly as you do. And you're never really going to know that. I mean, I knew that because I'd worked with her before, and I realized, oh my goodness, this is somebody I can absolutely rely on. You know, she will turn up. But it is something I am very clear about when I work with people. What is our setup? You know, I am only doing this with you if you can fully commit to this. And then often I then only do it for a short period of time. So I will go, can we do this for, and I sort of kind of think, how long do I need the help, and how long would they benefit as well from the help? So a week isn't necessarily long enough. I often say a minimum of 3 months. So I go, can you commit for 3 months? That is 12 weeks. And then we agree on a time, and it's like, and we put it in, and they are religiously in there. And then we review it. Because if you set up a beginning and an end, you can review it. You can stop and go, is this serving us? Yeah. And then you can renew your agreement. And it's very, very, very important to set up agreements, not expectations. Expectations lives in the land of regret. You want agreements, the sense of you have literally reached out your hand and handshaked with this person, even if you can't actually do it through Zoom, because the woman I'm working with, for example, right now is in France. So I haven't actually met her in person. But there is this sense of we have shaken hands and agreed on it, because when two human beings agree to something, 99.99% of the time, they will do it. They will not go back on their word. But if you're not clear on what you've agreed on, and that's where a lot of people get it wrong as well. They haven't had a very, very clear agreement. This is what we are going to be doing. Because otherwise, it can be you turn up and you just end up chatting to one another. You know, we're nice human beings. How are you? And how are the kids? And 20 minutes later, you don't have time for that. And neither do they. And then all you're doing is helping one another to procrastinate a little bit longer and not get the work done. So this isn't we're going to have a nice cup of tea together and do a bit of work. This is like, we're showing up and we're doing a job.
Now, their personality traits, like you want somebody that's more assertive, or someone that, I guess, based on the terms you would spell out, okay, I want you to hold me accountable for A, B, and C. Is that how you would set up the agreement?
Yeah, I would want somebody to feel comfortable to call me out on my bullshit.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So it does need to be somebody who you know would be confident enough to do that. It could be because it's part of their job. It just so happens that the person I'm working with is a coach. I'm a coach as well. So we're good at calling one another, calling our clients out and saying, this is not okay. This is part of our job. I've worked though with other people who, have different, careers, as it were. But it needs to be someone that is willing to say the truth. And it's actually really uncomfortable, especially if you don't know them very well. So you do need to work on it. And so you can do it in the way where, again, when you give advice, this is also something that always goes wrong with people. People love to give advice. The problem is, a lot of people haven't even asked for it, or they think they are ready to receive the advice, but they're not actually. So again, set it up very clearly. I would like to give you some advice now. Are you ready to receive it? May I give you some advice? And pause. Silence is underrated in conversation. Use silence and wait. Wait for them to think about it and answer. And if you start using silence, they will twig on very quickly. They will understand that, oh, you are giving me space to think and to come back with a real answer. You're giving me time to do that 18-inch drop from my head into my heart and checking what I really feel. What is my truth? That's why you give people silence. Give them time to think. And even check in again. Are you sure? And then you deliver the advice. And then another thing you can do afterwards, so that you're packaging it nicely, is you go, okay, what is coming up in you, or what do you think, or what do you feel? I mean, you can change the way that you put the question, but ask a question, basically asking them, what are they taking from your advice? How has it landed? How does it feel? What are your insights? Let them play it back. Let them start working with it. And when I set up my accountability, I often like to do it so that it's like 2 hours, which can be quite a long time, to sort of like set up a 2-hour session with somebody. But it's because you want to do some work in that time. So you want time to be able to set your intentions, and then you work for an hour and a half. And then you want to have like the last 5-10 minutes where you can go, this is what I've achieved. This is what I haven't achieved.
Thank you. That was good.
Yeah. Good. Good. And thank you for asking that question, because it did become, because I've done it several times now, and I've had different sorts of, I made the mistake. The first success partner I set up, I didn't set a sort of like beginning and end. And after a while, it wasn't really serving me, but I felt that I couldn't say, oh, I don't want to meet you anymore. It's a waste of my time. I felt really and so it kind of dragged on a lot longer than was healthy for either of us. Healthy from a business point of view is what I'm thinking of, a production point of view, productivity. So that was definitely that was mistake number one, not setting a deadline, not being, we are going to evaluate this. If it is not serving both of us, and this is also what I love about my current success partner, she will ask. So if I want to offer my services in some way and go, shall we work with that to help you get through that? She will stop and go, is this serving you though in this partnership? Or is it that you are helping me with something, and in actual fact, it's taking your time away from doing your high impact tasks of the day? So there is an honoring of the agreement, of the relationship you have set up. And this can be quite uncomfortable going into something like this, because it sort of makes you feel as though, you're kind of not like a robot, but, you sort of like, or, military, or sort of, it's like, and these are the rules, And yet it's so nice to have it so clear that you've set the game rules, and then you play the game according to the rules you have set. That's actually what everybody feels really good about as well. So it can take courage to step into a relationship like that, and yet take the courage and play with it.
Philippa, we're down to just about the last 4 minutes or so before we need to transition to our next speaker. Anyone else who has comments or questions? Chris?
Yeah. But what do you think is the biggest problem for people that are writers and are not sure? Kind of the issue that kind of comes up is, should I be an author? What kind of issues do people wrestle with in making that decision from writer to author? Is it knowledge? Is it kind of more self-judgment? Is it?
I like to sort of play with the concept of saying to people, just say you are an author. Right now, today, I am an author. And come from that place every morning. So before your feet touch the floor, you're still lying in bed, say out loud and create yourself for the day. I am an author. I have a declaration I do every morning that creates me and who I am every day. I create me. I decide if I'm an author or a writer or a singer or a podcaster or a coach or I decide that. I create that. Because then I come from that place. If I'm an author, then I'm going to show up as an author. Then I'm going to be writing books and I'm publishing books. And it doesn't matter where on that path I am of publishing and writing a book. I don't have to have published a book to be an author. The very first moment you have decided you are writing a book that you are going to publish, you are an author. Own it. I like to say to most people, I like to go, you know what? The biggest secret in the world is it's all made up by us. Yeah? All the exams we take, all the courses we take. It hasn't been some sort of extra celestial being that has created it for us and put it on this planet. It's us making it up. So as of now, Chris, I am pronouncing you an author. And live like an author. Show up like an author. as Janine would say, go and print yourself in Canva, or even actually Janine does it like this. She gets a piece of paper and a big felt tip pen and she makes a sketch of the front of her next book. And she goes, I'm writing this book. I'm an author. Now, when you do that, something happens in your brain and you start showing up as an author. How does an author behave every day? Who does an author hang out with? What does an author read? How does an author work? What tools might an author use? Think like an author, be like an author. You are an author. You will create yourself as that. It is fascinating how we can mess around with our brains.
Philippa, I just want to, Rich had his hand up. Can we, in a minute, Rich, can you ask, and Philippa, can you answer his question?
Yes, absolutely. Sorry, I take too long to answer.
Not at all. And it's not a question. It's just the way I learned this and have incorporated it, it's a be, do, have mentality as opposed to a have, do, be. You have to be it first. Just like you're saying, you have to be it first. You have to step into that role. And if you want to do a one-on-one with me, I could tell you this has been my whole life story.
Absolutely. Hook up with me. We'll have a chat, because it is absolutely that. Be it. Be it first. And be bad as well. It's okay. You can be, you're not going to be like the master author day one. That's perfectly fine. But be an author. Okay? So go out there, people, and let's make this world even more brilliant in the next 12 months. Thank you very much for having me today.
Thank you, Philippa.